Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. On the show, we've had a great time speaking with leaders and just picking their brains on how they have become the leaders that they have become. And in continuing in the great discussions, I thought it would be great to bring upon somebody that I believe is going to be just a great resource for his leadership and his leadership skills. I would like to introduce to you all Samuel Middleton. Thank you so very much for joining us, Samuel. How are you doing?
Dr. Green, thank you so much, sir. I'm doing great today, sir.
I'm glad to have you here, and thank you so much for joining. I didn't introduce your title, so I would like for you just to first off just introduce yourself, and then just kind
Yes,
of let
sir.
us know what type of work you're doing.
Yes, sir. So, I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. My dad was a single parent. My mom passed away when I was 4, and so throughout my lifetime, my dad was pretty much a stickler for being the person that you want to be in your lifetime, and also carrying on the legacy of the last name Middleton. And he would always tell me there's two things in life that you're going to carry. You're going to carry yourself as a person, and you're going to carry your last name. And
Mhm.
so after throughout high school, I always looked at that as being something that was really, really prideful for me. Assuming the responsibilities of a last name that someone like my father, my grandfather, took pride and had a legacy on. And so today, for me, current time, I look at certain things in life to where I can express my gratitude to others. And for me, it's just like I want to be able to give back in a positive way. And I tell people personally that I'm not here to serve a purpose for myself. I'm here to serve a purpose for you and other people that's around me. And currently, right now, for my job being an employment coordinator, I have the unique opportunity within the Savannah area in Georgia to be an employment coordinator for the National Guard, reservists, active duty service members that's transitioning out the military, and also veterans that's retired. So we kind of assist those individuals with resume writing, um, interviewing techniques like enhancing those skills, and also doing one-on-one intakes to understand exactly what those individuals are seeking for, so we can provide those services for them, sir.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds like such a rewarding position. So I know that the work that you're doing is really impacting a lot of lives. And I know that, how you got there, probably took a lot of different paths,
Yes,
in
sir.
order to be where you are. And we're going to kind of walk through all of that.
Yes, sir.
But tell us a little bit about, you mentioned your upbringing and your the philosophies that you held dear. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing. How was that scenario for you, and how did it kind of impact you on making certain decisions that you made later on?
Yes, sir. So for me, born and raised in Charleston, I tell
Right.
people Charleston, but it's a small country town called Buckhall, South Carolina, and maybe a population of probably 300 people, real small.
Hmm.
So during the time that I was being raised, like I said, my father was a single parent, but I still had other influences around me, like my aunts, my uncles, and even my biological mom. And I
Hmm.
didn't tell you guys this, I was adopted at the age of 2. So being my watching my father being a single parent, he instilled so much into me. And at the time I was his only kid. And so a lot of things that helped me was just seeing like the things that he did as far as every single day working. He would leave at 3 a.m. He was a truck driver, and he would come back sometimes at 7 o'clock at night. But I would watch him cook dinner, clean the house, get me prepared for the next day. And all this thing was like, it wasn't something that like a check the block thing. I realized that as I got older, like that was intentional. Like the things
Mm.
that he was doing was really, really impactful to me because, I saw a single parent that played both parts, mother and father. He
Hmm.
wasn't the most nurturing, but he was more like strict and direct. Specific timeline for me to be back in the house. Homework had to be done. In his absence, I adopted a lot from him, and I saw the things that he did, like cleaning the house. So for me, in return to give back to my dad, whenever he like go on overnight trips, driving trucks, I would stay at my aunt's house. But whenever he came home, like I would follow the things that he did, like clean the house, cut the grass without him even telling me that. And he would always tell me this: the things that I'm telling you now when you become a man and you have your own family, you would want the same thing out of your kids,
Hmm.
sir.
Yeah, so I'm sure just kind of seeing that image, and I know that society is not really used to the single father,
Right.
it's generally seen as a single mother.
Yes, sir.
But I'm sure your perspective of having a single father is probably so much more impactful for you as a man,
Yes, sir. Hmm.
just to carry on some of those traits that he instilled in you when you were younger.
Yeah.
So when you were in that space, and I thank you again for sharing that with
Yes,
us.
sir.
When you were in that space, like, how did it help you just really kind of see yourself, in growing up and wanting to, be a productive individual? How did it instill those qualities in you?
Right. I mean, great question, sir. I mean, for me, it instilled into me, into myself, like discipline of getting things done when it needs to be done. Like, do not hold off something for the next day because that next day is never promised to anyone. And so, and like I said, when I would see my dad do certain things, like I would adopt certain things from him. Like for one, he would always get his clothes pressed. So as I got older, that was something that I did because it was his image that he showed that people attract themselves to. The way he spoke, just him being a outspoken person. I would see him like we would go out sometimes to dinner, and it felt like he made friends with everybody.
Wow.
Now, so for me in present time, um, whenever my wife and I go out, if someone makes eye contact with me, like it's a conversation starter. Like we're talking, and I just it's like a reputation that my dad had that naturally I can't say I wanted to follow it, but it was something that came natural.
Hmm.
I mean, I would tell my kids certain things that my dad told me, the same exact phrase,
Hmm.
down to my grandkids, the same exact phrase. And sometimes when I talk to my dad, like now, I'll say, you know what, Dad, you remember back when I was 15 years old, you told me this? He's like, yes, I remember. It's like, I
Hmm.
told my grandson this morning. He's like, okay, good for you.
You
Yes,
just
sir.
you can't break from it,
You
when
can't
you,
break from
you
it.
hear things,
Yep.
it just you absorb it. We may not
That's
even
right.
know that we're absorbing those types of those personalities or
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
those traits, but we're
That's
we
right.
are absorbing them, and we have been for quite some time.
Right.
So you grew up in the small town right
Hmm.
outside of Charleston.
Yes, sir.
Um, whenever I speak with individuals who, are
Mhm.
from like a small town, they are always just, you know, consumed with so many great stories, so many
Sir.
great
Mhm.
habits. Because when you're in a small town, I mean, you know a lot of people that live there, and you have a different lifestyle that is outside of someone that's living in like a city, a
Yes,
major
sir.
city.
Yes, you do.
How did that affect you and just kind of growing up and kind of seeing things for yourself? Because I
Yeah,
know that a lot of times too, individuals can, kind of stay in that same area for quite some
absolutely.
time and kind of stay in that place. But I don't think that's where you saw yourself. But so how did it interact for you?
Yes, sir. So, in the community that I live in, it felt like everybody was family.
Hmm.
Like you can go from, playing at my dad's house to another friend's house, and they know exactly who my father was, right? And so
Hmm.
as I grew up, small community, of course, people where I live, they commuted from Buck Hall to Charleston. Like that's a 25-minute drive to both ways just for work because it wasn't nothing that was around like the local area for them to work at other than the shrimp market that was on the
Mm.
down in the place we call the village, right? Because where I live at is more of a seafood town. So those
Okay.
are the only jobs that were out there. So when I saw my dad, my uncles, my cousins commuting back and forth every day, you can see the stress that it kind of caused them, right? And so the community was so involved with the youth to where every summer we would have a summer camp. We would go to the local community building and they would supply us with things. And so a lot of the kids a lot of the men and women that are my age right now, like we all grew up together. So we saw, certain things that our parents did. And so for us, it's like, it's not a lifestyle that we would want to have, but as time evolved, we knew that it was something that was better out there. And so for me, that actually pushed me to join the military at the age of 18.
Oh, wow.
So yep, at the age of 18. So August 1996 was August 14th to be specific, was the day that I shipped out for the military. And small community, small high school, a lot of intelligent kids, but it wasn't a lot of scholarships that were being passed by because we were so small.
Hmm.
So back then, it's like either you go to college, you join the workforce, or you join the military.
Hmm.
And for me, Dr. Green, I tell you, I mean, the military was firsthand. I mean, great kid in school, good athlete, but the lacking of discipline on my part, I knew that if I stayed home, like the outcomes, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And that's me honestly speaking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it would have been something totally different because it was so many things that you can find yourself getting involved into to where either you make a decision then or you make a decision 10 years down the road and say, wow, I should have went with my first decision. I mean, I had so many people that was in my corner, and just trying to push us, not only myself, but push a lot of the youth back in the 90s to say, hey, there's something that's better out there for you. So you have to really, really go out there and get it. And that's why I kind of choose the topic leadership today because I saw so many family members that, showed and displayed leadership qualities and traits back then that I'm actually utilizing today.
Oh, that's amazing. What's
So,
also really, really great is that, even, when you're 18, you're, fresh out of high school and, you're at that place where you can go to college, you could work, as you
sir,
said, or you go to the military. You saw it important for you to go to the military. And I
sir.
believe you said because you wanted to develop the discipline
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Dr.
to
Green.
really, execute, what you knew that
Yes,
you
sir.
had. And, it's always great when people are in our corner to push us into
Right. That's
doing
right.
better for ourselves as
Yes,
well.
sir.
They
Yes,
didn't
sir.
want you to be one of the hometown heroes, staying
Right.
there
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, experiencing that whole experience. So, at that point, you're 18 and you did say that you were an athlete and you had the whole run at it.
Yes, sir.
You said you played football.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Um, when you did make that leap to, be enlisted into the military, talk about that transition from, being in that small town, high school type of place, and then getting oriented into the military.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so it honestly, Dr. Green, it was an easy transition. And I would say that because for one, like my dad was a real structured person, you know, making your bed in the morning, like cutting the grass a certain way. And like he was just that stickler for the small details, right? So when I actually joined the military, they shave our head, they shave our beards and stuff like that. So the day before I shipped off, I shaved everything completely bald,
Wow.
everything. And so I would use that story because, for one, I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. I knew that that was something that I wanted to do. And by choice, I understood that not even, I can't say it's a consequence for joining the military, but there's certain things that we would have to do, like go to war, and I accepted it. Like, I guess I truly understood that being a soldier, um, sometimes you have to sacrifice more to get certain things in life. And so
Mm.
the military, I mean, my upbringing actually prepared me, like being a captain on the football team, stretching out the team before a game, being not even like I'm not a vocal person at all. Like I'm just one of those persons that'll sit back in the corner and just observe, but watch certain things. But when it's my time to speak, when it's my time to, introduce myself, like I'm happy that I have the ability to do that. And so a lot of things that happened to me as a youth in high school, it actually translated over to the military because
Oh.
when I got into the military, coming from a small town, like I was meeting guys from Chicago, from New York City, from Arkansas. I mean, these guys got exposed to way more than what I got exposed to. So a country boy like myself, it's the traditional things of fixing your bed, shining your boots, putting your boots on. That was simple for me. So when the drill sergeants became harder, and it's like I kind of laughed on the inside. I'm like, man, I'm built for this. I'm made for this. But
Mm,
at the same time, as I got older in the military, I would always reflect back on my upbringing. I would always reflect back on basic training and say, now the things that were instilled into me, how can I instill that into someone else?
mm,
That's a daily thought. Like, how can I make someone else that's in my circle of influence better? Sir,
hmm hmm
sir,
Yeah, and I mean, we don't even realize sometimes that we're equipped for the battle,
yes,
when we
sir,
get into these different seasons. And it's good to hear that your transformation from, being in high school
yes, sir,
to the military was
mhm,
seamless,
yes, sir.
because, that can be quite a transition for some people. The shock of, waking up early and, making up the bed and stuff and having people, yell at you, making you shine your
Right,
shoes.
yes, sir. That's
That's,
exactly.
I mean, I'm only going off what I see on TV. I know that you actually experience it. So,
Yes, sir.
I just even then that seems like it's quite a stretch. So, and I mean, I would imagine that you were kind of equipped with this too. What
Mhm.
about like that physicality part of it? I mean, that seems like that's something that is hard to get adjusted to, but maybe
Yeah.
not. How was it for you?
So the running part, the push-up part was easy. Sit-ups was I struggled, but I knew physically that I can push myself like
Hmm
to certain limits, but I just didn't know how far I can push myself. So running the 2 mile run was, I mean, easy. Push-ups was easy. Like I said,
hmm
sit-ups, I struggled because I never did sit-ups.
hmm
So when they actually, did certain things to us, to me, I always told myself, they're not doing it to harm me, but they're doing it to make me better. They're
Right.
doing it to get my attention or to get our attention from something that we did wrong. And so
Right.
when I took that approach to it, it made it easy. And so now I was able to transition from myself. Now it's time for me to motivate somebody else who didn't have that. So
hmm
it was a smooth transition. But I did have some struggles with it at first,
hmm
sir.
Yeah. And that's understandable for sure.
Oh yeah.
Is the military the time frame that well, you said that you were the captain for the football team, so that
Yes,
was
sir.
kind of like the one of the
Yes.
main
Yes,
leadership
sir.
roles, I would say. But
Right.
is the military another time or another season that really helped with your leadership and
Oh yes,
and
sir.
also just kind of rising the ranks in it as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So when I first got my first assignment, it was in Germany.
Okay.
So now I'm leaving the U.S. I'm going to Germany, to a country that I've never been at. A lot of people told me stories, a lot of family members told me stories about Germany. Like, so the only way I can experience that is for me to experience it myself. And
hmm
so when I got to Germany, of course, being lower enlisted in the military, like you have leaders that's in charge of you, but it felt like Germany kind of redefined like who I was. So now everything that I was taught, like I have to utilize that. And so as I saw different leaders, in the military, I kind of wanted to replicate what that person was doing. And I would tell you, there's one guy that I would always talk about, and his name is Joseph Brown. He's from Georgia. He was one of the first leaders that I met, and this guy was probably the role model of being a soldier. Just clean, press uniform, you know, neatly shaven, just that role model person that you would want to, that a young guy like me would want to emulate. So when I saw that, um, I always told myself I would want to be just like him. And so
hmm
he taught me, what it's like to be a leader, to be in charge of others outside of going to the military schools as you get promoted, because they're going to teach you everything about the military. But he taught me like, what is it like to be a leader and being in charge of soldiers directly every single day. And this guy, just by his presence, alone, was one thing. And then when he spoke, that was something totally different, because when the guy spoke, like, he got our attention. It was
hmm
like, hey, ho, listen,
hmm
Sergeant Brown is speaking, something's going on. But
Hmm.
he just had like the biggest heart of care, a deep sense of humility just for another person, just to see these people thrive that he didn't even know.
Mm.
But he was charged to be a leader. So in the absence of our parents, he was that parent.
Mm.
And he just wanted us to do well. He just wanted us to be, the best version of ourselves, as he led us. And so, and as I got promoted in the military, there's certain things that I adopted myself. And for me, the biggest thing was care, caring for others in the absence of, them being away from home, understanding that, if their parents allowed them to sign to join the military, and now that I'm a leader, how do I care for this person?
Hmm.
I mean, I want to get to know the person personally before anything professionally happens.
Hmm.
Understanding their upbringing, understanding where they're from, understanding, what goals have they set in life, to where I can help facilitate things to help them, to help them set goals and achieve goals for themselves. Because I mean, Dr. Green, a lot of things that I've seen, especially when it comes to becoming a leader, um, you can do two things. You can be a leader for yourself, or you can be a leader that leads others to become better versions of themselves. And sometimes, I see it on movies and TVs, but the reality of it, like that stuff is filmed. That stuff
Hmm.
is scripted. Like
Right.
the reality of it is like what's happening, within our high schools, what's happening with our youth, and even deeply what's happening within our homes. So I try
Hmm.
to, be a person where when I talk about leadership, I want to show the passion that I have for it, because I mean, I do have a deep passion for developing people. That's, from,
Hmm.
I mean, walking. I mean, a kid that's just now walking, if I can teach him anything, if I can, up to somebody who's 26 years old, 27, 30 years, if I can teach them anything, I will.
Hmm.
I always take away from myself just to give to others. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I was smiling when you were talking about the importance of just showing that care and concern,
Sure.
because as a leader myself,
Sure.
I found that like when people know that you're invested in them,
Oh, yes, sir.
that looking at their care and concern, that you care about their goals, that you
Yes,
want them to
sir.
succeed,
Yes, sir.
they are so willing to, just kind of serve in any capacity, that you're asking, as a leader, they're willing to
Mhm.
serve and just really do the job for you
Yes,
because they
sir.
want to make a good representation of who you are as a leader. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure that you saw those same types of people and the same types of responses to your leadership style.
Yes, sir.
And it just it means the world to people, when
Absolutely.
you get to know them, their
That's
family,
right.
you get to
That's it.
talk to them just
Yes,
in a
sir.
normal conversation about stuff, because it shows again that you're invested. And so
Yes.
it's really good that you had that role model
Mhm.
to kind of show that to you so that you can implement that in your own leadership style
Yes, sir.
and take that and use it for many years to come, not just in the military, but I'm very certain that you've used it in every facet of leadership from that point on. So you were in Germany at this time. I
Yes,
definitely
sir.
want to just kind of circle back because I know that was quite an experience. Talk to us a little bit how that experience went, and how your leadership kind of grew from that point on.
Oh yeah. So first, like when I first got to Germany, and this is a real funny kind of story. So we were in this place where once you go to your assignment, they have a place that's called the reception station, right? That's where they receive all the soldiers, and it's like a reception and integration type thing.
Okay.
So my first assignment was bomb hold to Germany. You have a young guy, 18 years old, you hear the word bomb.
Yeah, I just heard it and I kind of like, oh, okay,
It
bomb.
threw me off. So
Mm-hmm.
now the my imagination is starting to crank up, and I'm visualizing everywhere that I go, there's bombs. There's bombs. So when we got done in processing, I asked one of the guys, like, man, am I going to a place where there are bombs? Like he laughed. And so he pulls out this map, and the way it's spelled is BAUMB. Mholder. And I'm like, oh, bomb holder. And he's like, yeah,
Oh,
it's just, yeah. So,
got it.
you know, and so I laugh. But I tell you this, Germany really, really defined me as a leader, not at that current time, but 5 years down the road.
Oh,
So I got a chance to deploy to Bosnia for 6 months. And so when we went to Bosnia at the time, the position that I was in, I was still a lower enlisted soldier, but I wanted to become a leader. And so now we don't have those distractions, from being a father, or having kids. Now it's just you and your leaders one on one. So they invested into us and they showed us the route to go. And so when I look 5 years down the road and when I became a leader actually in the military, that was in 1999. So transitioning from Germany in 2000 in 1998, and I got stationed in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now it's like it's time for me to not even showcase my talent, but now I'm around other talented soldiers
mhm.
that know the walks of life now. So now I have to kind of express the things that I wanted to do because now it's not a competition, but it's like you know may the best person survive or
Right.
win that trophy, right? And
Yeah.
so when I got to Fort Campbell, I was challenged because for one, um, the guys that was in my platoon, they were already in the army 4 or 5 years, so they had to jump ahead of me. But at the same time, I accepted the opportunity to say, I have to compete to get certain things, but how do I go about doing that? So what I would do, like I would talk to those guys and just, ask them certain questions. So now this is when the mentorship part of my career really excelled. That's where those guys was actually investing into me, and they kept telling me, man, like you have what it takes to be a great leader, but keep in mind it's not about you. It's about the soldiers that you're in charge of under your direct leadership that you have to influence every single day. And Dr. Green, I'll tell you, man, I mean, I retired at 24 years in the Army, and that thought was in my mind every single day. Like influencing the soldiers and leaders that's under my direct care. And sometimes you have to sacrifice certain things to get the best out of these guys. And, you know, I had no choice. And being a leader today, even as a retiree, I still try to influence soldiers because where we live in a place called Hinesville, Georgia.
Hmm.
And we're actually Fort Stewart is the army base that's around us, and I do a lot of work on Fort Stewart. I go to the gym on Fort Stewart, so it feels like um actively, and I'm still actively involved with the soldiers, except I'm not in uniform.
Mm.
So when we talk and we have conversations, it's funny. A lot of the guys, when they see me, they call me, say, "Hey, what's going on, Unc? How you doing, Unc?" And it's just like sometimes, you you see a person and you think like, what is this guy going through?
Mm.
So how do I start this conversation to build a relationship with this individual?
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be sports, it'll be leadership, the things that they're doing in the military, and so I realized that influencing goes outside of the uniform. You can still be an effective leader when you're retired, only if you have the right approach to it.
Right.
Yep, because I mean, a lot of things that's still in the military, like a lot of things currently, is probably a lot of things that I knew when I was in the military or the publications, it's probably newer, but I'm pretty sure it has the same concept. So I can still apply the things that I learned and just give it back to these soldiers, sir.
Hmm.
Sir.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing too. I love what you said about being a soldier without the uniform. Like,
Yes, sir.
you're not wearing it, but you still are a soldier at heart, and you're able to connect
Yes,
with
sir.
soldiers who are, still in need.
Yes, sir.
Um, and something that you did mention that I want to circle back on, because I know that competition is a part of
Ooh,
kind of progressing up the ladder and,
sir.
succeeding and just kind of,
Mhm.
accomplishing goals that you want to accomplish. I am interested because I hear you and I feel like I know that your heart is good and your intentions are
Yes, sir.
always good.
Hmm.
You come across as that person for sure.
Yes, sir.
But when you were tested with those competitions, to kind of be against people
Oh yeah.
and try to, be the best that you could
Hmm.
possibly be and, have your team being the best, how did you not allow for that to, become something that, could potentially, I don't want to say corrupt you,
Yes, sir.
but some people get corrupted with
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
competition. You know what I mean? That
Yes, sir.
spirit
Yes,
of
sir.
just wanting to be the best. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean?
So for me, I've always adopted the traits of a wolf.
Mm,
I can be that lone individual, or I
mm-hmm,
can roll with the pack.
mm,
So when I use that, I always told myself, if I'm that lone wolf, I'm only competing against myself. The things that I don't want to do, how I don't want to motivate myself to get the job done. But if I'm rolling with the pack, my level of motivation is going to influence somebody to step up and say, hey, let's get after it. And so, and I saw it through my career to where when you don't think people are competing against you, oh, you will see. Like, like even outside, even right now as a retired civilian, oh, I see it all the time.
mm-hmm,
So now, of course, I can react to it in a negative way, but what type of impact would that have on everyone that's around us? So when I see, like, so when I was in the military and I saw the competition, I would tell them straight up, I want you to be better than me. I want you to beat me. Because if I've already been there and done that and you haven't, I'm not holding nothing over you.
mm,
I just want to empower you to say, guess what? You have this opportunity to do it. Let's go ahead and do it. And
mm,
not only let's go ahead and do it, let's do it together.
mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Yes, sir.
That's a great way to combat that, that spirit of,
Yes, sir.
having that, you know, you know what I mean? It's
Yes,
it's
sir.
it's out there, and you
Yep.
just said it. I mean, we can see it. You can always kind of pick up the sense when somebody is, competitive and they have a really vindictive way
Right.
of kind of getting on top.
That's it. That's
Um,
it.
when you're able to say you want for someone to do better than you, you're
Yep.
taking control of that other stuff, and you're not even
Sir.
allowing for it to be in
At
your
all.
your spirit, in your nature.
Yes, at
Um,
all. Yes, sir.
exactly,
That's it.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. Did you happen to see the development in people when you instill those types of words in them that you wanted them to be better than you?
Mhm.
Did they take the challenge? Did they, rise to the ranks, or did they, accomplish greater things than you did when you were,
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. Because for one, as I became a senior leader in the military, um, I always thought back to Sergeant Brown, like how that guy was, the things that he did to instill into me. And so now when I saw soldiers that had the potential of becoming great leaders, like
Mhm,
I just invested into them. But I always told them this, said, listen, the investment that I'm giving to you,
mhm,
there's someone that you're leading right now that lacks that.
mhm, mhm,
They lacked it at home, but now you have an opportunity to make an impact for this in this person's life forever. So,
mhm,
and for me, like there's a lot of guys right now that I led that are still in the military that are doing great things.
mhm,
That I mean doing awesome, and
mhm.
so I never took it as, hey, you're going to do better than me. You're going to outshine me. Or maybe I'm not going to tell you, the latest bit of news that's going to
Right,
make you successful. No,
right.
I'm going to tell you
Mhm,
because I want you to surpass me and others.
mhm.
And sometimes, you run across leaders in both sides, military and civilian. It's very selfish, to where I'm going to
Yes,
take away from you to give to myself.
that's right.
Yes, sir. And,
That's
and
right.
yep, and I'll tell you this, Dr. Green. You know, my wife and I have been together now 25 years, and I'll transition a little bit to tell you a little bit about her. Raising three kids, um, and being married to a soldier after five deployments. She redefined a lot in myself about leadership because I would always, whenever I came home, of course, we want to jump right into it. the kids are not used to that. The kids are used to her for the last 12 months.
Oh
And
yeah.
so now
Yeah.
that reintegration part has to be slow. And my wife has enough. She had the courage to say, it's not going to happen like that. You're going to slowly integrate yourself back into this family because the kids are used to me. They don't need a culture shock.
Mm,
I just came from a place to where it was a combat zone. We're running combat missions almost every single day. So my way of doing things is still that up tempo. Let's
right.
go, 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 but not
Right.
thinking
Right.
about
Right.
the psychological restraints that I can put on these kids because they're
Hmm.
not used to that. And when she told me that for the first time, like it resonated in my mind, like it hit me in the heart so deep to
Yeah.
the point where you got to take that step back.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to take that step back,
It
sir.
was an epiphany moment because
Oh,
I mean,
big
you didn't
time.
even, I mean, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you're
Yes,
right.
sir.
That's
Yes,
very
sir.
true. I mean, they had been used to mom
That's
and
right.
how
Yes, sir.
things were going for the 12 months that you were gone
Yeah.
and but you had a different mentality where you were
Yes,
coming
sir.
in like, I'm like, hey, let's go. Let's get it. But that's not the tempo that the family was on.
Right. That's right. Yes, man.
Hmm.
She would always tell me, she's like, your kids and I, we're not your soldiers.
Mm.
And that was probably the most impactful statement
Wow.
that she could have told me
Hmm.
in the time when I was in and I was deploying. So now,
Hmm.
I have to like think like I'm not walking on eggshells,
Right.
but I'm really being really, really, intentional with what I say, how I approach certain things. Yes, sir. So yeah,
Because it all matters,
it all matters.
the approach, the way that you say things, the tone of the language,
Yes, sir.
all of that,
Sir.
plays a huge role in how things are communicated and how they are perceived.
Yes, sir.
So no, I think that's amazing, and I also want to credit you for absorbing what she said
Yes, sir.
because someone else could have been like, no, I'm the man, I'm the head of this household.
Right.
What I say goes,
Yes,
but
sir.
you took an approach of listening and then allowing for it to convict you and to rethink how you came across to your children. So
Sir.
that is that
Sir.
is amazing. That is an amazing thing to share. And just so many wonderful things I'm getting just from talking about those two things, with the competition and just being reintegrated into your household. I'm so glad that you brought that up about the competition and just having the spirit of wanting for people to win and to do better
Yes,
and
sir.
not hold stuff. I was really in agreement with you with that because I know a lot of leaders can have that attitude of
Yes,
holding
sir.
stuff in their
Absolutely. That's
pocket
right. That's right. That's
because
right.
they want to do something for
For
themselves.
themselves. That's right. That's right. Yes,
And
sir.
take the benefits of some. And this is another thing, taking the benefits or taking the compliments or the hard work. They're taking the credit
Yes,
for
sir.
someone else's work
That's right. That's
and trying
right.
to pass it off as theirs. And that kind of to me is in that same bag. To
It is, and use like even current time, like when I speak on leadership conferences or just like, around the table type talks, like I'll tell people, think of others first.
hmm
Think of others first, because
hmm
if you're a leader of an organization, you best believe your work alone would not make that it's not making that organization run.
right.
It's the employers that you have that are
Hmm
making a difference.
hmm
It's the people that we come in contact with that we stay connected with every day that's making a difference. Yeah, we are obligated to, lead them and guide them in the right direction. But at the same time, they're the ones that's actually putting in that hard work every single day. And those are the individuals that's influencing others in
hmm
our absence to make things run flawlessly with any
hmm
organization. So yeah, and so I'll tell
hmm
you this, like right now, I've been coaching youth football for the last 2 years. And so last year we coached 7, 8 U, and we took, I think it was 19 kids we had. Out of 19 kids, we only had one young man that played football. And when we started off rough. And the head coach that I coached with, um, he's still active duty military, and when we talked, I coached his son on youth basketball, and so he asked me, he said, "Hey, coach, man, you ever thought about coaching football?" I had the biggest smile ever. I was
Mm,
like, man, let's rock and roll. So we became partners as far as coaching, and so we took a team last year with only one player to the championship. They lost, but those kids saw to where how working together as a team you can achieve more than working as an individual.
mhm,
And so when we saw that, like it, I don't think it was more of what our approach was. So when we talked to those kids, like we never stood over them, we got down to their level to make them feel accepted. And once we saw that, those kids were so receptive to everything that we were telling them. So, and we saw now they're starting to ask questions. Hey, coach, so I'm supposed to do this because it's going to help me do this. Exactly. So you see what we're telling you. Now you're going to execute it. And so, I mean, honestly, Dr. Green, I take leadership very seriously, man.
mhm,
It's something that, if I want to be known for as a person,
mhm,
it'll just be, just the heart that I have
mhm.
for being a leader, sir.
Yeah.
Sure.
And again, I think that foundational point of having that care and concern
Yeah.
is so important because that's essentially what you did with your players. I mean,
Yes, sir.
you didn't, speak over them or, speak in a way that they couldn't understand. You got to their level, but
Yes,
you,
sir.
you did it because you were concerned and you had a care for them to do well. And so
Right.
in
That's
order
right.
to do that,
Mhm.
you get on their level so they can understand it. And
Sir.
like you said, they'll show the curiosity. They'll see that you're concerned about their welfare,
Yes,
and
sir.
they'll start to see
Yeah.
the things that you're telling them is making
It,
sense, and then they'll
it,
continue to execute and do all the things that's necessary.
right.
So yeah, so that's beautiful just to see that kind of had your leadership go out into that space,
Mhm.
even,
Sir.
as a volunteer, as a coach, as you've been doing. I know that takes a lot of hours
Oh,
and a
yeah.
lot of preparation to do that, and a lot of
It
stamina, a
does.
lot of energy to
It
keep up
does.
with kids in that
Sir.
space. So
Yeah.
it's great that you're expanding your leadership to that area as well.
Sir.
So after your 5 deployments, you said you were in 24 years of the military.
Yes, sir.
Talk to us a little bit about how your path kind of went from that place just in your leadership and how it
Right.
helped you to get to this place.
Okay. Yes, sir. So I retired 4 years ago. It'll be September 1st of 2020 was my actual end date out the military. So now I'm no longer affiliated with the military. Like I am a retired civilian or retired veteran, right? So when I retired, my plan was to work as a safety officer in some organization, Savannah Ports, somewhere to where I can utilize like my background is something that it'll be beneficial. That took a pivot so hard
Mm,
because now I'm applying for jobs, but in my mind, like I'm thinking like, what is my purpose? Like, what does God want me to do? And how
mhm,
would that translate into my current role that I'm in? Because I'll tell you this, from September to about November, like it was a hard period in my life because I'm no longer in the military now. I have to find a new like there's a new identity that's out there, but I just wasn't getting it. Right.
mhm,
So I applied for jobs, not looking for anything specific, just something that was impactful, something that would, help kids. So I came across this position. It was a youth career specialist. So I read the job description. You know, as soon as I read the job description, I'm looking at the bottom of this job description for anybody's name that I can find on LinkedIn, right? So I couldn't find
mhm,
nothing and nobody. And so finally, I found that the business, the organization was Work Source Coastal Georgia. And so to make a long story short, I got hired on as a youth career specialist. And so what we did was, as a youth career specialist, we have certain counties that we're responsible for. And the job is to go out within those local counties, connect with business owners just to see if they would allow a 16 through 24-year-old kid to become part of their business, but they would only provide them with work experience. So now I have to really think that the kids that I'm placing, like, would these businesses be open and take the time to invest into these kids, or would they just put them on a clock as another individual just to have additional bodies, to assist?
Right.
So when I made these connections with business owners, like, we before we even brought anybody in, like, we would do a roundtable discussion, and they would give me their expectations, and in return I would give them my expectations, because I know that the kids that I'm going to bring to you are quality kids because they're coming through our program for a reason. And so when I saw the impact of that, then now things are starting to elevate more.
Mm-hmm.
So now I stayed there for a year and 7 months, and then I got recruited by Chick-fil-A. So now, when I got recruited at Chick-fil-A, I'm a senior director of talent and culture. So now I'm doing the hiring, the onboarding, promotions, but I'm still connected with the youth and people.
Mm-hmm.
So now we transitioned from a youth career specialist to an even bigger title of a bigger corporation, right? And so that job was both of those jobs were I mean, promising jobs, like great jobs, great opportunities, and everything that I was challenged and charged with, like, I took it to heart. I came to work every day with a positive attitude because I knew that the positive attitude that I had is going to rub off on someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent 2 years at Chick-fil-A, and at the time, I realized that, hey, I'm pretty sure there's other opportunities out there, because now I felt like, okay, I've done enough here. So now it's time for me to leave this organization in better hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at myself, and not even considering my age, but you still had young adults that were 25, 24 years old that's trying to find their careers. Like, what is the next opportunity for me, what I'm saying, to grow and develop myself? And so um, when I resigned from the position, it was because of the opportunities that I saw that I was taking away from someone else. So now all that selfless
Mm-hmm.
service within myself was starting to come out. And so when I gave the position up, I'll tell you this, Dr. Green, that organization sent me off in top class fashion. They knew that I love football. So the owner operator bought a football and had every individual on it in that organization to sign it. Like,
Oh, wow.
very impactful, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have Worksource Coastal Georgia as a youth career specialist, Chick-fil-A Hinesville as a senior director of talent. Now we're transitioning to, like, my true love, and that's working with veterans, family members, and soldiers, right? So when I got the call about the position, this is from a friend, Jason. He's a he's part of the Travis Manion Foundation, and he's one of the directors in Tennessee. And so when I called Jason, I told Jason what was going on. Jason immediately said, "Sam, hold on, hold on." And so we hung up the phone. He called me back. He said, "Hey, do you remember a guy by the name of Archie Lee?" Excuse me, sir. And I said, "No, I don't remember Archie." He said, "Well, Archie was here when you guys brought the seniors up to Atlanta for their senior class trip." And I said, no, and so I was like, well, I don't know him. I don't know him. He's like, well, you do. He's like, well, Archie has something for you. He said, Archie's going to email you and also text you and call you. So, man, Dr. Green, within the next 30 minutes of my life, it changed just like that. Now, not only do I have another opportunity to be in a leadership position, but now I have another opportunity to influence on a wide range, something that I really wanted to do. And so when I assumed this position, it was sick almost a month. So, now I'm eager to see what's going on, and so I think I did the right thing
Mm-hmm.
by calling to kind of investigate on my application. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I called the program manager, this is her exact words was, Sam, I'm happy that you called me. At that time, like, I'm not, I wasn't thinking cocky. I wasn't being cocky, but I was being more confident that, this
Confident.
job is yours.
Right.
And
Right.
so in this position currently, I'm working with the Department of Defense, veterans, family members, but I can still reach out to the youth. because those family members, they have kids. So now I have two organizations that I serve with that can assist and help these kids with employment, with developing themselves as leaders, and when I look at this whole situation within the last 4 years, I mean, Dr. Green, I have to smile for a reason, sir.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just thankful for every opportunity, that God has given me up to this point, up to even having this conversation with you. It's just been something that I'm just grateful for. And I'm just thankful for every opportunity that I've been given in my life, man.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
And it sounds like everything was purposeful.
Yes, sir.
Everything,
Yep.
every turn, every position, every person
Mm-hmm.
that you connected with, which I
Yes,
love
sir.
to hear. I love to hear when everything connects, because God works so mysteriously, but then
Yes,
when you're
sir.
able to connect the dots of what he's doing
That's it.
in your life, I mean,
That's
it's
yes,
just
sir.
it sends chills, man. It really,
And
really, really does. And it really definitely
uh,
sounds that way for you. Everything was just so purposeful, and it,
yes,
it
sir.
is giving you the purpose and to continue
Yes, sir.
to
Yeah.
doing something that you love to do. I mean,
Yes,
you
sir.
love to develop people and you love to help them to be better individuals. That's kind of been what you have been known to do in your track record. And so you're able to do that. I gotta just circle back
Yes,
to
sir.
Chick-fil-A. I didn't want to interrupt
Okay.
you, but
Yes, sir.
Chick-fil-A is like a big deal. Everybody
Yes,
loves
sir.
Chick-fil-A. Would you say that the customer service that, the company tries to present,
Mhm.
is that something that they also try to present within working in
Oh,
that
yes, sir.
capacity? Okay.
Oh man, like there's no hidden agenda at all.
Mm,
So with Chick-fil-A, it's all about the guest experience, the team member experience, and building a culture at the Chick-fil-A in Hinesville where people
hmm
who love to serve others love what they get to serve others. And so for me, being the senior director of talent, like I was pretty high up there in the leadership chart, right?
hmm
And so I had direct influence and contact with team members and leaders every single day. We would do one-on-ones, and during those one-on-ones, like that's a personal interaction that you're having because you never know what type of conversation you're about to face. You just don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and if you don't have that open mindset of stop talking and do more listening, like you can lose that individual quick.
hmm
And
hmm
so the approach that I took every morning, I had two signature um, greetings in the morning. It was a fist bump or an elbow bump.
hmm
And so some mornings I would come in and I would do something totally different. And the team member would say, Mr. Sam, that's different. Why did you change? So I said to myself, when you think they're not watching, they're watching.
hmm
So as a leader, like you have to do everything. You're not perfect,
Right. Right.
but you have to do everything the right way. That's going
hmm
to show them that, hey, whatever you do in life, do it the
hmm
right way. Do not hold any grudges against no one because
hmm
you want to be the person that you are and you don't want to let anyone determine who you need to be.
hmm
Yes, sir. So,
hmm
yeah, I mean, that customer service from Chick-fil-A is whew,
Yeah, I
top
mean,
notch.
and it shows. I know everybody that's watching this is agreeing and shaking
Yes,
their
sir.
heads
Yes,
because
sir.
just everywhere you go, that's the type of experience that you get. And I'm glad
Yes.
that they sent you off, knowing you
Right.
and knowing something that you would enjoy and got you well situated as
Yes, sir.
far as
Yes,
just
sir.
being prepared
Yes, sir.
for this new journey that you're in with this new position. I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
amazing. I know that in this space you're going to really just impact and change a lot of lives. What's something that you're looking forward to in this new space that you're in this new position?
Yes, sir. So within our organization, Work for Warriors Georgia, we
Hmm.
have 7 employment coordinators, well, 6 to include our program manager, right? And so a lot of the guys that are actually here now, our staff is, I think we have 3 retirees, we have, and 3 veterans, right? And so we all came from a familiar place, right? And so what the guys tell me is like, hey, Sam, man, your region is like your own business.
Oh, wow.
So when they told me, so now you have to not even get into a business mindset. but just apply the things that I already have naturally in me. Just building connections, with business owners, doing the face-to-face meetings, doing the web calls, doing seminars, So when I thought about that, honestly, Dr. Green, like I just want to be the face or the voice behind something that has a bigger cause other than myself.
Hmm.
And I look at myself within that structure or org chart, however it is, I'm the smallest person that's on there, but I want to have a significant impact on any and everything that I speak with, touch, or come in contact with. I just want to have a positive impact and just leave an imprint or leave an impression of this guy really cares.
Hmm.
That's
From
it.
your track record, I know that that's exactly what's going to take place, and I
So,
wouldn't be surprised if it's even more than what I just said. So
sir.
I know that you're going to do some great things in this capacity. What would you tell someone who's listening or watching this show right now
Yes, sir.
who is wanting to be a leader? What are what's some advice that you would give that person in becoming a good leader?
All right. So I kind of took my notes when I came, and I read a lot of books
Yeah.
on leadership, and my last book that I read was Heart of Leadership by author Mark Miller,
Okay.
and I kind of really like thought about the things that he said, and there's five lessons he always talk about, and I used one earlier, and that's just think of others first,
Mhm.
because you're thinking of people first, you're putting yourself behind, but you're also being upfront by leading each individual that you come in contact to set their goals, make sure those goals are realistic, and that they're able to follow up with those goals. And sometimes, if those goals are not achieved, it doesn't mean get away from them.
Right.
It means that you still stay on track to achieve those goals, but maybe you have to pivot somewhere because something wasn't planned right. So you can always go back to it and keep moving forward. And then the second was expect the best. You expect the best out of every outcome, every situation, because that negative connotation, just to say like, "Hey, Dr. Green, man, that's not possible." I don't know the type of mood that you're in that day. I don't know how that simple statement can have an impact on you and the way you think and the way you want to go about doing things. Like that can be very detrimental to anyone. So, expect the best to me is like, hey, influence and encourage in positivity and not negativity.
Hmm.
So, and then next, respond with courage. Sometimes you have to tell an individual the plan and goals that you're setting, it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
But I'm here to assist you to make it make sense based on your abilities, your capabilities, your educational background, and just the things you want to do. And then be hungry for wisdom. Like I'm always open to hearing, listening, and not speaking. My wife and I just had a conversation about that this morning about being more open to listening versus speaking because sometimes we have conversations and if a person's so eager to get their point across they'll cut you across,
Yes.
and sometimes just the humbleness in the person on both sides, the receiver and the sender, sometimes you have to be humble enough to pause what you want to say and let that person express themselves and just follow up. Like I usually say, man, so what you're telling me is this, and that opens up a whole conversation. So and being able to learn from other people, like it's huge. And sometimes some people don't want to learn from others because hey, I know it all,
Hmm.
but you know it for yourself. But can you regurgitate your knowledge and wisdom to someone else? Yes, sir. And then my last one, sir, is accept responsibilities.
Hmm.
Yep, accept responsibilities. I think sometimes, when as leaders, we want the title. Of course, you want the pay that comes behind it, but sometimes it's the responsibility not of the job description of what you're entitled to, but the responsibilities of someone else shortfall because you failed to give them the right information as a leader. Sometimes that's where you have to exercise humility, and sometimes you have to come in and say, "Hey, guess what? I accept responsibilities for that because I failed to give you, the direct order, or
Hmm.
I failed to give you the proper guidance on the specific task or the specific, obligation that we had to do, sir." So
Hmm. Yeah, I think those are just exceptional qualities
Sir.
of leadership. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for
Yes, sir.
sharing
Thank you,
that.
sir. Yes,
One
sir.
last question for you.
Yes,
What
sir.
is one word that affirms who you are?
Me, humbleness.
Mm,
Yes, sir. Humbleness. I don't go a day um without thinking that, oh, I'm better than this guy. Oh, I'm better than that girl. Honestly, sir, I really don't care. What I care about is that rising someone else
mm,
up to reach their maximum capacity and knowing themselves and knowing exactly this is how far I can push myself before I press pause and say stop.
mm,
Because sometimes in life, we're going to be pushed to the edge and we don't know our full, we don't know who we are unless we're being pushed and
mm,
driven into a direction to where that direction has a future outlook on the things you want to achieve. Because I found myself sometimes to where I don't want to do certain things. I just get up and do it. Once
mm,
I got done, I felt a whole lot better.
mm.
Sir, yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And that is a word for somebody I know that's watching and listening. That
Sir,
is
sir,
huge. Mr. Samuel Middleton, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Thank you for just sharing your journey with us. I know that a lot of people were inspired by your stance on leadership and how you've just been able to matriculate through your career and having that mindset of just helping others. So thank you so very much for joining us tonight. If individuals want to connect with you, how can they go about doing that?
yes, sir. So you guys can find me on LinkedIn at Samuel Middleton. I'm always accepting new invitations. I love
Mhm.
connecting on that professional platform because I'm here to assist and help anybody that I can.
Yes, and I think that is excellent.
Yes, sir.
Um, what is something that you're grateful for today?
Actually, Dr. Green, this opportunity to speak with you.
Hmm.
This opportunity that we made a connection
Hmm.
almost a year ago. And, we never knew that we would come to this point, just your professionalism as a leader, just your standards about life, honestly, I will emulate everything that you have done up to this point. Because honestly, like you're a leader that I want to follow one day. And I just thank you just for this opportunity, sir.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
Sir,
that is quite uh I don't even know. I'm humbled by you saying
sir.
that. I
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for saying that.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. That's my gratefulness moment that you even thought to say something like that to
Yes,
me.
sir. Yes, sir.
Because I'm, chronicling your journey and
Yes,
I'm like,
sir.
wow, this guy is amazing. He's doing some amazing things.
Yes, sir.
So no, I really appreciate you saying that. That's my
Sir.
literal gratefulness moment. So thank you for
Yes,
saying
sir.
that. We've been able, I think, to sharpen each other. You would say
Yes,
iron
sir.
sharpens iron.
Iron
So
sharpers iron. Yes,
that,
sir.
that's how we're gonna operate with that one.
Yes, sir.
For everybody that's watching, I'm gonna put my screen up. Make sure that you are following me on all the social media outlets and visit my webpage. Go to YouTube. You can watch this episode and many other episodes to come, and subscribe as well. So please make sure you're doing that. And also make sure you come back again next week. We're gonna have another amazing guest, another amazing topic. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend.